All right, we are on Pittsburgh Sports Live. This is John Krysinsky, Jordan Smith. Jordan, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, a 5-2 defeat here at Highmark Stadium at home. I think a lot of us are still trying to figure this one out. The Hounds got an early goal. They went up 1-0. Alex Dixon with a really nice pass, and former Pitt Panther Arturo Ordonez gets the goal. And then it kind of all falls apart from there.
Yeah, then I think 5 unanswered. Just not something we're used to seeing here at Highmark Stadium. They've struggled on the road this year, but we're undefeated at home coming into this one, and that just shows how tough of a stretch this has been. Probably the toughest one yet under Bob Lilly. 6 games in a row now where they've yet to have a win, and only 2 draws, I believe. So they've only collected 2 points out of a total 18. So just not good here around the midway point, but as Bob Lilly told us and Alex Dixon post-game, they're halfway through and they got half the season to figure this out.
It's a really tough stretch. Like you said, 6 matches now without a win. 6 matches. The last 3 losses now.
Yep.
The Charleston loss was pretty humbling. It was 3-0. Then they kind of looked better last week. 1-0 loss to Rio Grande Valley FC Toros, 1-0, and they just couldn't find they just couldn't find the answers in the attacking third. And Bob talked about tonight, ironically, that he felt that they were at least creating chances, getting forward. They were at really good possession. I think it was 60-40 most of the night.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Tampa took advantage of every chance they got. 3 in the first half, for sure, defensive lapses for the Hounds.
Yeah, both sides look to be in that 4-2-3-1 formation. Mm-hmm. Although the Riverhounds, it looked like Kelly was really holding in front of that 4, and then it was kind of a diamond in front of him.
Kenardo Forbes definitely had, it was a lot more fluid, and he also, Kenny was a lot more fluid, and he was moving up and down in different places. And look, they were keeping the ball, they were possessing it well, but, and even Bob alluded to, I think his quote was, we looked okay on the attack, but defensively we were just really, really poor tonight.
Yeah, and the first one to start that defense is Kevin Silva in net. Mm-hmm. And I can't say at all this season he's had a bad game, but today I think we can say he had a bad game.
Yeah.
That second goal where I believe it was Fernandez that just tapped it by him, he slipped. I mean, unlucky. He fell. The first goal, though, he got chipped. It wasn't a strong performance for Kevin Silva, so I'm not going to be surprised if next week against the Red Bulls that, it's going to be Jamali Wade or Chase Vosvik is going to get the start instead. Yeah,
Jamali Wade and Kevin Silva have been alternating in goal the last maybe 3 or 4 or 5 starts. It's been one after they've been alternating starts. But yeah, Silva, it struggled. It was definitely a struggle for him. Both of the second half goals too, Bob alluded to the fact that, if we could have kept that at 3, maybe the team showed some fight in the beginning of the second half, but felt that they were a little soft, those second 2 goals. Fernandez's second goal, and then Lucky Mukasana, who scored the first ever goal, game-winning goal in Highmark Stadium history with the Harrisburg City Islanders, and he's back almost 8 or 9 years later.
Yeah.
It's in great form, comes on in the second half sub and just got some room, got forward. But the Fernandez goal too, I mean, it was a brilliant little placement there.
Oh yeah, that's going to go down as one of the best goals in the USL this year. Goal of the week for sure, I'd say. I mean,
excuse me, guys. Sorry.
Excuse me. You got some Riverhounds employees coming through.
They're coming through here. All right, so. Yeah, no, that Fernandez goal was pretty brilliant.
He juggled it to himself, and both Shane Wheat and Ordonez are right in front of him, and that he used that as a way to put traffic in front of Kevin Silva's vision, and then just slots it in off the right post and in, and then Lucky on more of a breakaway basically does the same thing, hits that right post and in. So they certainly showed their talent tonight, and they created more. Their defensive midfields just played nice little chip passes, played diagonally, and the Riverhounds just couldn't copy them in that success.
Yeah, they were very sharp on the counter. And the question now is, what what defensive adjustments is Bob going to make? What defensive adjustments can they make? Is it personnel? Is it tactical? What can they do? For me, looking at what I'm seeing here, is I just don't think that they are, as a group, as a unit, really on the same page at different times. Some guys are stepping forward, getting, Bob hinted to Ordonez getting beat on the third goal, maybe kind of was a little out of position. Jelani Peters looked like he just struggled tonight. He was pulled in the second half. So I'm sure from a personnel standpoint, there was definitely some concerns. But I don't know if, tactically what the answers are. I think Bob had gone with the 3-man back line for much of the early part of the season.
Yeah.
And we noticed the last few games after the Detroit match when they gave up 1 goal, but it was such a glaring, diagonal ball, giving up something that they worked on all week. And then I think he went to a 4-man back line after that quite a bit, and they still haven't really figured out things.
I think when you have a 4-back now in today's world of soccer, maybe not 30 years ago, but now you have to have outside backs that can play, that can move forward.
Absolutely.
And to me, Dixon honestly could be that right back, but then you're missing what he can do up front. They've yet to really find consistent outside backs that can both defend hard and really get up in the attack. And Dan Broad is an example of a fine player that can do that, but he was out right now tonight.
Well, and I think the key, Ordonez scored a goal tonight, which was nice to see, and that's definitely a bonus.
Yeah.
But what you're alluding to, you want those outside backs to be dynamic, to pull stretch the defense when they're making their runs into the final third, getting more dangerous crosses in. We saw Ryan James a number of years ago here, was kind of on that level. I don't know. Dos Santos seems solid, and then whoever they're rotating in and out, a lot of center backs. Bob mentioned there's center backs that are playing in those outside back spots, natural center backs. Shane Wheat or Arturo Ordonez. These are solid defensive players, but are they the answer at an outside back? When in this league, you need some dynamic guys that can get up and down. You need speed, and that's another question. Mark Goodman talked about this. Does this team have that? Separation speed in different times. Are they lacking that as well? So we're seeing a lot of, warts, if you will, with this team, and they've got some work to do to correct them.
Yeah, absolutely. In my 2 years covering the team since last season, I still have yet to really see that answer, that consistent answer at the outside back position, and just the back line in general. They got beat over top. That keeps happening to them since last year. If I'm playing against the Riverhounds, I'm pushing guys forward and just say kick balls deep and wide. You obviously don't want to play kickball against a team, but I feel like you practically can against this back line sometimes. And Bob Lilly even alluded to post-game mentioning how they just don't really have outside backs. They like the size when they play that 3-man system, but in the 4-back system, it just doesn't seem like they have it figured out.
Right. He loves size. We know that. They're playing that 3-man center backs, and then maybe 2 wings that can be kind of multi. Used both getting forward and also tucking back and being solid in defense. So it's just a lot of questions about how they're going to, work as a unit moving forward and be solid. And they were certainly exposed tonight.
Yeah.
And now New York Red Bulls, one of the younger teams in the league. This is their swan song in the USL Championship, because next year they'll be moving over with MLS.
Right.
Next Pro. So there's a lot of history there with the New York Red Bulls. Even won a USL championship, USL Cup back in 2016. So, but the Hounds have to take care of business. They have to go to New York or New Jersey and pick up 3 points. They've got to stop the bleeding at this point.
Yeah, and I think a guy like Dane Kelly could be that answer. We know Bob's clearly been, watching his minutes this first half. I think you're going to see a lot more of him down the final stretch. There was probably no reason to sub him in when you're down, 5-1. What's the point tonight? But yeah, they're going to have to just find a way to get results, because honestly, this kind of has been some underachieving from the Hounds. Some good attacking tonight, but defense was bad. Bob said so. And they just can't seem to find a way to get back into a game. If it's more than one goal, I mean, at half it's 3-1, and all I was hoping for was a tie. I felt like that was the best that they were going to get.
Right.
This team just isn't the type that pours it on and comes back. But yeah, they're a team that has to score that first goal.
And I wrote one of my weekly Hounds notebook. About 2 weeks ago, I think outlined that right now, even up to the last two games since that, I wrote that they have not been able to. They haven't scored any goals this year after the 80th minute.
Yeah.
That late kick. I mean, they've made good adjustments after halftime in games, and they've scored goals around that. Maybe between the 45th and the 68th, 70th, 75th minutes here and there, but not a lot. And when they fall behind, that's a concern. But 3 straight losses. This is just unheard of, and that was the first question, and that's a good way to wrap this up tonight. The first question I asked Bob tonight was, is this a low point for this franchise, for this club under his direction? And he thought this team played better than they did tonight than at Charleston. But he said, well, if you just look at the results, it's definitely a low point.
I'd agree. And all I can wrap up by saying is in this last half of the season, they need to figure out their formation, their identity, and their personnel. It needs to be consistent who we're going to see playing where, because I don't think we've seen much consistency in the lineup of players playing well each night all the time. Like, your Cicerone, your Dixon, Dane Kelly, Dikwa. These are the best players, but the other 4 or 5 in the starting lineup, they got to be figured out.
Definitely,
forward.
As a group, the continuity is there's just some missing pieces, especially between the midfield and the back line.
Yes.
And obviously the goalkeeper situation, I think, needs to be cleaned up. Somebody needs to step up and seize that. Maybe it is Jamali Wade.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's the guy that can do that. He's gotten a look at the Jamaican national team, and that's a good thing for a player. And so maybe that will be the case, and we'll see some improvements. And the bottom line too is that I think Bob does not want. I don't think he wants to become too defensive minded.
Yeah.
And he really likes all these parts that he has at the top, but those guys are not finishing as much either, and so it's a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, but that's where they are right now. So tough night.
Yeah.
The Riverhounds lose 5-2 to Tampa Bay Rowdies. I can't believe I'm even saying that. And this is a team that's definitely needs to do some soul searching, but they're going to get back to the grind. And New York Red Bulls on Friday, so it's a shorter week, and we shall see what happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Sean. Good night. We'll see how they do against the Red Bulls number 2 team before they leave the league and they never play them again.
So look for more on Pittsburgh soccer now throughout the week as we prepare for see if the Riverhounds can pull off and get back on the winning column. But until then, thanks for joining us and have a great night.
Thank you.